This is a call for an uprising. We welcome you to today's show and ask those of you who have not subscribed to please subscribe to our YouTube channel as we continue to expose the satanic Illuminati agenda and the ushering in of the Antichrist as we are in the end times period. Today's show I want to talk about professional football player, or I should say former professional football player, Johny Manziel. I'm not sure, I would assume most people out there, whether you watch sports or not, have heard of this man. Okay, and I've been saying it on this channel a lot. When you see somebody constantly pushed in your face in the media, it's a part of their agenda. They're not going to waste airtime just going after this guy over and over unless it fits into an agenda of theirs. Okay? Johny Manziel has self-destructed, as people probably know. He was a prominent college football player. He won the Heisman Trophy. Then he became this huge flop in the NFL. You know, when you look at him, he looks like he is completely spaced out. You know, he's oblivious to what's going on. And people are kind of, you know, they're making a huge mockery of him, but there's an agenda behind what's going on here. And I believe that Johny Manziel is a MK Ultra victim of mind control, okay? And he was, you know, it was done to him at a young age, and he was probably supposed to be this prominent athlete, but his conditioning and his programming broke down. I talked about this in the Serena Williams video, about these athletes that they, you know, put under MK Ultra like Tiger Woods, and then they have breakdowns and meltdowns, and then, you know, Tiger Woods goes from being the greatest golfer of all time to not even be able to hit the ball straight, not even be able to hit the ball in the air sometimes. You know, he goes from shooting in the 60s to shooting in the 80s, or I mean, something that, you know, drastic change, not just like a small change where he's not winning, but he's still competitive. I mean, complete meltdown. And I'm talking about, you know, Shia LaBeouf, who goes from this famous actor, and they were pushing and pushing and pushing him, and then he has this mental episode breakdown. He's walking around wearing paper bags over his head. You have Britney Spears shaving her head, acting insane. They have to send her out of the spotlight and tuck her away in Las Vegas to still make money out of her. Because her father, her handler, you know, still is there to caretake on her and control her. But they still make money off of her, but you never see her in the limelight. You never see her performing anymore. And, you know, I hear all these things about clones and stuff like that. Yes, that's possible. I can't prove that or disprove that, so I will not get into detail about whether or not certain individuals are cloned or not. But I want to talk about Johny Manziel because there's signs you can tell that he's an MK Ultra victim. Number one, he's already got the tattoos on his body. Okay, so he has a tattoo of the all-seeing eye inside of the pyramid, which is the most basic symbol of being a member of the Illuminati. He has it right there on his arm. He has another tattoo. He has a few tattoos that actually look almost like barcodes with numerology on his wrists and a crown. These are symbols of the occult. You'll also notice the OVO tattoo on his arm. OVO supposedly stands for October's Very Own. Okay, it is an occultic coven within the satanic circles that Drake is a part of and created. They lie to the masses to tell them it means one thing when it means another. And of course, the fans who think that they know these people and think that they're friends with them will defend them to the death to say, it means October's very own because they were born in October. I mean, I can't believe how easily tricked people are and how naive they are because their obsession with these idols. But it does not stand for October's very own. It is an occultic circle within the coven. The owl is the representation of the OVO. That is the symbol within it. The owl, the Moloch, which represents Bohemian Grove. Drake, okay, who is behind this symbol, who is a part of this group, who has known Johny Manziel before Johny Manziel was even a professional athlete when he played in college, because he had the tattoo when he was in college. They were seen together while he was in college, which shows you that Manziel has an affiliation with the occult before he even gets to a professional level. Okay, that he has connections to them, whether it's through his family, Masonically, or some other way, but usually it's through his family, through the Masonic roots that they have. And also, keep in mind as I go along and talk about his issues as far as, you know, alcoholism, drug abuse, and his, you know, behavior as far as abusing and battering women. The woman that he was dating, coincidentally, of course, because everything's a huge coincidence, last name was Crowley, so go figure. I'm sure that has nothing to do, there's no connection bloodline-wise to Aleister Crowley, as these people only date and affiliate with one another. But obviously, you know, that must be another coincidence. And then you get into the behavior breakdown. And there's more after that, so keep listening. They get into the behavior breakdown. All they do is talk about this guy getting drunk. Everywhere he goes, they're taking pictures as if there aren't other athletes out there in the off-season going around drinking, or even during the season on a Saturday, or not a Saturday, obviously, maybe on a Thursday night, okay, or in a bye week, having a couple drinks, Okay, they go out of their way to follow him. Every week there is a story about him getting drunk in Las Vegas, him getting drunk somewhere else, him beating his girlfriend, all of this slander to make him look like a complete fool. They're making an example out of him. When there's other athletes that do stuff like this that they don't talk about. He's not the only one out there. But they're obsessed with him. So that means that there's something behind it, because they wouldn't go out of their way to be obsessed with this guy. He's a short quarterback who probably shouldn't even have made it, in the NFL. It was a first-round pick despite being very small. He was very good in college. You can tell that there was probably a breakdown in between that period because he could, when you look at him play in the pros, he was awful. Beyond awful. If you're somebody who, watches sports sometimes, you can tell that. Now there's articles coming out saying that, his friends are so scared that he's going to die, that something's going to happen to him very, very soon. CNN has an article on it. Other sites picked up on it talking about how people are fearing for his life, his family's fearing for his life. But that's where it gets more interesting, and that's where you really can start tying things together. Because as people out there who are awake know, okay, the elitists, these people who, control mass businesses, massive amounts of money, all have ties to the Illuminati, to the Freemasonry, to the occult, to Satanism. And Johnny Manziel, which has been pretty much kept under wraps, it hasn't made any mainstream media, but he comes from a very, very, very wealthy family of rich oil tycoons. Because you don't become an oil tycoon by chance. Even if you stumbled upon oil somehow in your yard or whatever, okay, they would not allow you to control that. They would either buy you out or threaten to buy you out. They will not let anyone control any resources, okay, that isn't a part of it. And then when you read more about them, you try to actually find out, well, is there ties into Freemasonry? Can we get records on it? You read these quotes from people, from the town, from the Smith County Historical Society in Tyler, Texas, where, his family has been their entire lives. It says it's a very fascinating family. There are probably more legends about the Manziels than there are actual things in writing. So everything has been kept pretty secret. All we know is that his family is very, very wealthy. They are oil tycoons. Nobody talks about that. So that gives you a tie-in right there, knowing that there has to be a relation, okay, somehow, into Freemasonry, into Satanism, into the occult. And if you just watch his behavior and the blank expressions on his face and the constant, just not being aware of what he's doing, okay, he's just going around drinking. He's under programming. And this is what they want. They're destroying him, okay? Whether they're, whatever the reasoning behind it is, I don't know. One could only guess whether they wronged him, whether they want to make an example, whether this is something to make an example in the media about athletes. Who knows what their agenda is sometimes at the end of the day. But there is an agenda. They don't waste their time every day sending reporters to follow him around, doing story day after day after day about him, and then the actions, just the constant drinking, drugs, crashing cars, hitting women, not being apologetic. It's just constant. It's consistently all things that point to MK Ultra mind control programming and a complete breakdown that this guy has had. He isn't having it. He's already had the meltdown. So his career is obviously over. And what's next is that, hopefully not. But this could lead to death or something like that. But if you look into his history, you can see that there are ties into that, and you can see the tattoos and the markings on his body. You don't conveniently get a pyramid and an all-seeing eye tattooed on you unless you're marking yourself as being a part of something. What do you think? He saw it, in an advertisement, or he was flipping through tattoo ideas, and he saw it and thought a pyramid with an eye was cool. He obviously knows the meaning of it. It's obviously a mark he's putting on his body. They want these people marked so that you can see and know who represents them, who's a part of it, whether they're making a mockery of the guy or not. They leave their mark. They leave their mark, right? And as we talked about with witchcraft on this channel, letting you know in advance and letting you know who's a part of what, it enhances the craft. It enhances the spell that they're putting on and they're using on the masses. So you can see that. You see the owl tattoo. And then, like I said, just the odd behavior and the millions and millions of dollars that this family has, not by coincidence. Okay, not by coincidence. You don't just fall into becoming an oil tycoon. I don't care what time period it is. I don't care what the backstory is. Now, I understand you could stumble upon oil, okay, but they control the world's resources. The New World Order controls all of the world's resources. They would never allow somebody else to do it. If I stumbled upon oil, they'd probably come and say, we'll buy you out. We'll buy the oil. Obviously now for cheap, since it's worthless to them now. And if I refuse, they'd either bully me out, they'd slander me in the media, they'd do something to destroy, kill me, and they get control of the oil. That's how they operate. It's like the mob. It's no different than what you see in the mob movies. Not to mention the mysterious death behind his grandfather, who was the one who became this oil tycoon and passed it on to his family. He was he was boasting apparently about earning $5 million a year in oil revenue. And if you want to adjust that statistic from that time period today, $5 million a year in oil revenue is about $43 million in today's dollars. So he was making, if you want to put it in today's mindset, $43 million a year with this, oil, and growing because he found more oil fields. And then he was actually constructing a dome coliseum in Tyler that would host sporting events. And so that was his project he was working on. And he was saying, it's going to be great. There's going to be plenty of use for it. And 4 months later, he just mysteriously died. They don't even know what. Okay, they were calling out for blood donations to help him. And he suffered from an illness and had massive hemorrhaging and just died at 51 years old, leaving behind 7 kids, no will. So obviously, the strange stories, the constant media attention, the tattoos, obviously the actions, the way this guy acts, and the blank expressions, the talent that he had to now not being able to even throw the football, all these things show that MK Ultra mind control breakdown, and the attention he's getting just is more proof. They want this story out there for whatever the agenda is, whether it's to slander this family, whether or not it's to make an example of the guy. There is an agenda we don't know about yet, but I 100% believe all the signs are there, and this could lead to his death or something like that to make an example of him or his family. So we'll see, but if you look him up, you'll see stories constantly about the guy. Every day they're talking about this guy. I mean, they're not talking about LeBron. All these guys who are, obviously satanic because you can see the symbols on them and the rituals. But this guy's a guy that's not even in the league anymore. He barely played. He was awful. And there's this obsession with him. Okay, we're not talking about, somebody who was prominent in the sport and was a dominant player. He played, barely played. He was awful when he played. And he got cut, and all they do is follow around and follow his mistakes around. So that's a sign. They would probably just drop the guy and say, all right, this guy turned into a flop. Who cares what he's doing? But they constantly want the attention on him for a reason. So I wanted to point that out. If anyone out there thought there was something suspicious about him, I'm on board with that theory that this is some type of MK Ultra breakdown. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families. May peace be with you.